The Psoriasis Journey, Part 4. Movement. Julissa told me about the importance of movement to the reducing of psoriasis. I have to admit, I hate exercise advice. Not sure why. But it always seems to be telling me to do things I don't have time or desire to do. But I quickly realized I'm a typical example of the 80% of Americans who sit for far too long each day. I sit on the sofa, sit at the table, sit in my car. Sure, I walk and stand too. But for minutes at a time. Whereas I sit for hours at a time. Like most Westerners. There are now so many studies that confirm that sitting increases low-grade inflammation and adds to the risk of diabetes and heart disease. In case you're interested, I had psoriasis. So that low-grade inflammation was my main concern. I wanted to be rid of it. I sincerely and honestly wanted it gone, and was mentally committed to doing whatever Julissa advised. Still, I initially thought the antidote was going for a run, or visiting the gym. Neither of which I ever want to do. Turns out I was completely wrong. Julissa showed me such simple cures for too much sitting, that I almost laughed. I adopted them into my lifestyle that day. Household poisons. This was also a bit of a shocker. I suppose I was vaguely aware that house cleaning chemicals contained dangerous chemicals. Just look at the user instructions. Wear gloves. Don't get on skin. Don't inhale. Open windows and don't use in unventilated areas. If accidentally consumed, go straight to hospital. That tells us all we need to know about the ingredients they're using. They're dangerous. And as Julissa points out, even if used as directed, they are effectively poisons in our personal environments. What I didn't realize was that to a lesser degree, my personal cleaners were also potential irritants. Soaps, shampoos, perfumes. I'm not prepared to give those up. Turned out I didn't have to. I just had to make informed choices rather than blind ones. I simply had to know what the heck I was doing. Instead of giving up soaps and shampoos, I gave up psoriasis instead. Which was a trade I'd make any day of the week. Is that it? Now I realize that this sounds like a lot. As I reread it, it looks like a lot. So how come it's so easy for people like me to implement? And by people like me, I'm talking about average people who aren't iron disciplined, with stone-hard grit and determination. People who have otherwise busy lives. People who can't turn their lives upside down, just because someone else says it's a good idea. Well, fortunately, Julissa has incorporated all this essential knowledge into a program for clearing up psoriasis. And for returning skin to its natural, unblemished self. And that program is broken down into small bite-sized chunks. She realizes you may not have done this before. And having once been new to this herself, she knows exactly what it's like when you're starting out. Which was useful for me. Because as I mentioned, I'm not a fan of diets and, to be honest, I don't do much exercise. And I certainly don't give much thought to how I think. So I knew I would need something that laid it out for me, in simple steps. Something that was going to make this easy to succeed at. A no-brainer, basically. And that's what I got. For each element of her program, Julissa's strategy is to explain what's going wrong, why it goes wrong, and how you can put it right. I grew to really understand how my dried, itchy skin and red patches had specific causes that I could directly affect. It was uplifting to know that I could actively work on the problem myself. Julissa puts her program into a follow-along 4-week plan. She spells out in plain language how to address each of the areas outlined above. I didn't have to look anything up. There's no special equipment required. And absolutely no drugs, medications, procedures, no doctors, specialists or hospital visits. Just a set of gentle habits developed gradually, that soothed my immune system. And which replaced 14 years of inflamed, and dried out scales with smooth, unblemished, healthy skin. How my psoriasis faded, then disappeared. First, understand this wasn't an instant fix. Instead, it's a quick one. And it's a lasting one. Second, the program takes about 4 weeks to be properly embedded. I noticed some improvements before the 4 weeks were up, but only at the end of the time did things start to change dramatically for me. I still had the dryness and scaly skin. Some of it itched a little, and there was redness in several patches on my body. But it all stopped getting worse. At about week 3, what I was looking at pretty much wasn't active psoriasis. It was the leftover psoriasis. I didn't properly understand this at the time. But I was actually looking at the after effects of a psoriasis that I no longer had. New skin grew, but this time, at its normal rate. My immune system had settled, and had stopped attacking my skin cells. So there was no inflammation. The dry, itchy patches were replaced over the following weeks, with healthy, normal-looking skin. No more flaking. No redness. I wasn't itching anymore. After years of hiding parts of me away, I wanted to go out and show my new, clear skin to the world. Where I'd had red patches for years, I only had clear, evenly colored skin. Those places that feel like they've itched all my life, nothing. Not even a hint of discomfort. Cracked, bleeding skin. Gone. Dry flaky patches in my scalp, that gave me the worst dandruff in the world. Disappeared. I've never been so happy. And I really love the gradual approach that Julissa's guide takes. Too many programs dump a huge amount of information on a person, and then expect them to get on with it. I certainly am not a person who can operate like that. In my experience, life gets in the way of the best intentions. Things crop up, distractions are everywhere. So another ambition falls by the wayside. Like every New Year resolution I've ever made. That didn't happen this time. Julissa's program gave me new, inspiring steps one at a time, so I was continually moving forward, and taking better control of my condition. I really liked that. As the 4 weeks progressed, so did the improvements to my condition. Until, one day, I didn't have a condition anymore. A little something extra. Every day with psoriasis is another day that you can't wait to get rid of it. Although I noticed improvements to my condition quite quickly, it's a fact that Julissa's program takes 4 weeks to start making dramatic changes. It can't go faster than that, because that's how long it takes to grow new, healthy skin. In the meantime, there's still some skin discomfort, some itching. That can't be helped. But it's still irritating. So she also shows you some natural remedies to the scaling and itching that comes with psoriasis. I hadn't tried any purely natural lotions myself, so this was a bit of a new thing for me. But they were very effective. They're not cures, Julissa doesn't claim them to be. But they soothe and comfort, while the main program starts to take effect. And that was such welcome relief. Not just for psoriasis. There's so much I learned in Julissa's psoriasis strategy, that I honestly think people without psoriasis should read it. Of course, I got healthy, content, and physically and emotionally strong, in order to cure my psoriasis. But my sister went along with some of what I was doing too, just to see what it was like, and she was very impressed. The better eating lost her a few pounds, which pleased her of course, but her overall sense of well-being has elevated too. She's happier and healthier. Those habits are now pretty much ingrained. I didn't just give them up, once my psoriasis disappeared. They're easy, I never think about them. But every day I still look at my clear skin, and I am so thankful I did this. I've had no psoriasis symptoms for more than a year now. It's so wonderful that I still haven't quite got used to it. I wish I'd discovered this years before. It would have saved me a lot of unhappiness. That soreness, itchiness, self-consciousness. All those ointments. The steroids. The phototherapy. The time and energy I spent going from surgery to clinic to drugstore. The hiding parts of me away from other people's eyes, when my skin flared. It wasn't necessary. None of it was necessary. Which is the bit I'm angry about. It's like I wasted a large part of my life away with psoriasis. Julissa's program didn't exist when I first got the condition. But if it had been, I'd have been over psoriasis within weeks. But still. My skin is completely clear. I do not have psoriasis anymore. I'll never have it again. I am so very grateful I found Julissa's psoriasis strategy. I think you will be too. Clear, healthy skin is guaranteed. You can have a copy of her strategy today. Right now, in fact. And it's a risk-free offer. Julissa's psoriasis strategy comes with a 60-day guarantee. If your psoriasis hasn't gone within 60 days of buying this program, you can have your money back. The psoriasis strategy has made psoriasis disappear for so many people that its results are certain. The basis of this approach is so strong, and has worked so many times now, that a full refund if not satisfied is an easy guarantee to make. You can only lose your psoriasis. As a former sufferer, I can tell you now how wonderful losing my psoriasis felt. And how wonderful it still feels. As a psoriasis sufferer yourself, can you imagine what it would be like, a month from now, when it's all over? What's that going to be like for you? You can find out. For real. 28 days later. Because that was my story. 14 years of a seemingly incurable skin condition gone in 28 days. 28 days to change my life. To get the life I honestly never imagined was possible for me. And I only had to learn this stuff once. It's not like it's an ongoing effort. Think about this, you already have food and toiletries, shopping habits, sleep habits, thinking habits. They're already there. Everybody has these. All I did was gradually change them. Make them a little better. Julissa's psoriasis strategy showed me exactly how. And habits, once set, are easy to follow. After all, that's what a habit is. Something you do without even having to think about it. Except these habits tackled the root cause of my psoriasis, and made sure that once it was gone forever. Imagine yourself 28 days from now. What does non-itchy, non-flush skin feel like? What does naturally moisturized, blemish-free skin look like? I spent years hoping I'd grow out of my condition. So often I thought the doctors had finally beaten it. They never did. Today, it's different. I don't have to imagine clear, healthy skin. I can just look at it in the mirror. Today, I don't even think about the habits I adopted that ensure my skin stays that way. It took about a month for those habits to become easy, another month for them to become unthinking, natural. All I think about now is my skin. My beautiful, clear skin. I see it every day. I don't take it for granted. But I do love it. Love your own skin too. Psoriasis is not an inevitability. The remedy for psoriasis makes sense. We already know that psoriasis has a strong genetic influence. And yet only some people with the genetic bias for psoriasis actually get the condition. The key trigger for psoriasis is our personal environment, our diet, frame of mind, chemicals in household products. These three elements are long known to medicine, as influencers on our immune system and health. Modern medicine has evidenced this beyond even an ounce of doubt. And it's all too easy to trigger a condition you don't want, especially if the gene for that condition is present. Triggers in our environment create the immune system dysfunction, that gives rise to runaway inflammation. And then to psoriasis. What happens if you remove those triggers? You've removed the conditions in which psoriasis thrives. You've taken away its entire reason to exist. Its ability to exist. And replaced it with a life you've always wanted, but thought you could never have. You're unlikely to grow out of your psoriasis anytime soon. If ever. It'll go if you act, it'll stay if you don't. I suffered for 14 years. I'd still be suffering now, if I hadn't stumbled on Julissa's psoriasis strategy. And acted on it. It's not known if long-term psoriasis becomes incurable. You'll have to suffer for many years to find that out. Whatever the future holds, you can choose for it to be riddled with the misery of an embarrassing, life-denying, and deeply uncomfortable condition. Or you can choose for it to be clear-skinned. Comfortable. Psoriasis-free. It all hinges on your decision right now. The psoriasis strategy worked for me, and it worked for hundreds of others, with all the different variations of the affliction. Results are guaranteed. Can you lose? Of course. You can lose psoriasis. I would never have suffered this for 14 years, if I'd been offered Julissa's strategy after the first month. I wouldn't have done that to myself. You're here because you've had enough of this condition. So get rid of it now, and step into the life you thought you could never have. You're 90 seconds away, click here and we'll do the rest.